So, being Christian means easier life, right? Not necessarily. So let's talk about it. Life can sometimes be a roller coaster, and we get it.
So tune into The Walk, where we'll explore the modern-day Christian journey by addressing challenging questions and trending topics faced by young adults today. No topic is off limits. Happy Sabbath, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Walk. We are on episode 9. This actually will be the final one of the season, so we're thankful that you can be here and join us for this. We've got a great discussion in store. But first, I want to introduce our guest today. We have myself, we have Shane, we have Gavin returning back, and we have Rodney joining us for the first time. So we want to thank you guys for being here.
Okay.
Y'all don't know this, but we got the right two for this topic. Right? End times or just hard times? Yeah, we got the right one. So we're gonna have some great discussions today. We want to kick things off with our segment, Won't He Do It? Which is a segment where you just want to talk about something that God has done for you, so that people know that if He's done it for you, He can do it for others. So I'll kick things off. You guys know that we got back from a trip to Japan a couple weeks ago. Now, on this trip, we did go to see Mount Fuji. Okay. And we did this. You had to walk up this incline to get to the summit and then kind of see the mountain. We didn't actually climb Mount Fuji, but it was like a peak where you can see it, right?
Okay.
I don't know what happened to me. I have no clue. But when we walked back down and I went to go sit on the bus, I started having this muscle spasm in my butt.
Okay.
Yes. So anytime that area, that muscle would go to like fire, it would like just like
Ooh.
cramp up.
Okay.
So if I go to sit down, if I go to stand up while I'm walking, it would just be random. So and this is the middle of the day. Like we're doing a lot of walking. Just the rest of the day is it would just be like, whoa, what's going on there? Like it was really, really bad. So when we finally got back to the hotel, I had a friend, one of my friends that was on the trip. She's a physical therapist, so I had her like, like, can you figure out what's going on here? Because this isn't normal. But I actually prayed about it, and I was like telling God, like, hey, all right, we're in the middle of this trip. All right, we're halfway across the world. Every day we're doing a lot of walking. I was like, this isn't feasible. Like, I can't function like this. So I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I just need this to stop. So the next morning I woke up and I felt the same pain, but it was just sore. It wasn't like spasming anymore.
Okay.
So like as I'm sitting, it would be like uncomfortable and stuff, but it wasn't spasming. And as the day went on, that went away. So I was like, man, like this seemed like a miracle to me. Like, because I was in a lot of pain the day before, and then this day it's just magically gone. To this day, I have no clue what happened to cause it, and I don't know what happened to like make it not happen again. But I'm just thankful that God heard that prayer, and He was like, "All right, we're gonna fix this," because that really could have put a big damper on the rest of the trip. Yeah. Anybody else want to talk about something that God has done for them?
Well, just today on my way home, I stopped at the grocery store to grab some stuff, and then I'm thinking about coming here, a little bit nervous, thinking about
Please.
it. I know, but somewhere in the back of my head, and I'm driving. I'm taking a back road. I'm driving, and this kid just comes out with his car, and he's not looking or paying attention. He just crosses right. I'm driving. He just comes out. I mean, I got into the brakes this close.
Yeah.
This close. So I'm saying to myself, yeah, devil's a busy man, isn't he, though? I tried everything. I said I'm going to leave work early, so I left work earlier so I can get home, get me a bag, because I know I had to go I had to make 2 stops, actually. I had to go to United Trophies. We're doing something special for our veterans for men's ministry day. So I had to go and finalize that. So I wanted to get everything done so I had enough time to get home, take a bath, relax, so I can get down here in time. And I'm like, yeah, the devil is really trying. He's really trying, boy. But, God saw me through it. I was able to break in time. The kid reversed his car, and, he's looking through the window. I'm like shaking my head, and I just went on with my business, made it home in one piece. And I just praise God for His goodness and His mercies. Because we sometimes we see it where God saves us. Sometimes we don't see it where a car was actually coming at you or swerving or whatever, and we don't see those things. And somebody would tell you, did you see that car? And I'm like, no, what car? What are you talking about? Yeah, there was a car swerving, but God is good. He's good. I'm just grateful for another week of life.
Yeah. I think you were telling me.
Yeah. So I was thinking, what testimony can I give? And I was like, I could talk about, ever since I started working from home, I've been doing 10,000 steps a day.
Wow.
Nice.
So I got a walking pad, and that has helped me to do it. But then my foot started to hurt. So I got one of those spinny things so I can pedal, and my knee starts to hurt.
Oh, no.
I know, Gabby. You might just be getting old. This is crazy.
That's it. That's a testimony that I've made it this far. But actually, my testimony for the week is I authored a book.
Oh,
really?
Wow.
Yes. I didn't publish a book, and I don't intend on publishing it. But I don't do, at the beginning of the year, I don't do resolutions. I think that's a waste for me personally. But what I have started to do is vision boards.
Okay.
So
like
towards
that.
the end of the year, beginning of the year, I do vision boards, and I update it. And one of the things was I put on my vision board was to, write a book or put a book together. So have no intention of publishing it. I only did it because I said I would. And it's really not as big of a deal as it really sounds, because it's really just a compilation of things I've already done.
Okay.
So when I left my job in Miami, 2022, I started a consultant business only because I didn't want a gap in my resume.
Okay, gotcha.
And I've kept up with that on social media. So every so often you'll see a post on leadership. So from 2022 to 2025, I have a whole bunch of posts on leadership.
Okay.
So basically, what I did was I took 40 of those, categorized them, and put them into a book where someone who's a leader, you can read a quote, a statement on that quote from me and my experience, and then a question for them to reflect on the quote and that topic for the day, and then they can write a reflection.
Gotcha.
So that's my testimony for this week, because I shared that with the first 5 people that I wanted to see that, and we'll go from there. So that's my testimony.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, also, don't downplay yourself like it's nothing big. Like, listen, if I said in January I'm gonna write a book, I guarantee there'll be about 5 pages by now. So don't downplay yourself there at all.
Yeah.
That is an accomplishment.
That's huge.
Awesome.
I mean, I guess my testimony is a little old now, but I am thankful for making it back from Asia safely. When I think about it, I was like, we had 6 flights. I don't know how many trains we took, including a bullet train, almost 200 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Nice.
Ubers, like
we flew into Jersey. I don't know if y'all know about Jersey.
right. We went to Newark Airport, and made it. So, I mean, when you think about, like, things can go wrong on a regular, but when you combine so many things in 2 weeks span of over 10 trains with hundreds of people, planes and Ubers, it's just like
you just need one small
Trains,
thing.
planes,
Yeah.
automobiles.
Nothing
Right,
was
right.
delayed. Nothing was canceled.
Right.
We didn't miss
Like-
anything. Like, Jamal tried to smuggle some things into the country, but everything was fine. Like, it all worked out.
Right,
you know,
and
so-
that's even worked out. Yeah, let Jamal tell it. But even that worked out. So
Wow,
God was good.
that's
That was a
awesome.
good
For sure,
trip.
for
So
sure, for sure.
I'm glad that we were able to take it.
So, also let us know in the comments if you have anything you want to thank God for. We want to be sharing this so that other people know the things that God is doing and that He can do it for you as well. Now we're gonna move to the next segment, word on the street, and we have one that's gonna really play well into the topic we have. So I'm gonna have Lee play the video, and then we'll kind of discuss things.
It's not illegal to be a Christian in China, but it's a catch-22 situation for Christians who want to worship God in a church. There are almost 6,500 registered churches in China, and the CCP mandates that all of them use only hymns that align with their communist principles. Congregants must stand to sing the national anthem and offer praise to the Communist Party before beginning their worship. The sermons must be reviewed and approved by government officials in advance, with any message lacking socialist themes subject to censorship. In addition, all registered churches are required to install facial recognition cameras, including at the pulpit, to allow the government to monitor individuals who dare to attend. In 2023, the CCP rewrote portions of the Bible to align with the party's doctrine. In the Gospel of John, where Jesus tells the crowd, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone," the CCP's version twists the narrative. Jesus himself stones the woman to death to underscore the party's message of zero tolerance for crime. Since 2018, the Bible has been available only in government-controlled churches, which raises a haunting question. If these are the only places the Bible is legally available, and those Bibles are altered, do Christians in China now have access only to the CCP's version of Scripture? So here is the catch-22. Attend a state-approved church and risk being indoctrinated with CCP-altered teachings, or worship in an underground, God-centered fellowship and risk being harassed, arrested, or locked up. What would you do? Drop a comment and share this with a friend. God bless you. It's not illegal to be a Christian in China, but it's a...
All right, so what are you guys' initial thoughts about that video? I'm not gonna lie, you're gonna find out on the show I live under a rock. So there's gonna be a lot of things that are very surprising to me. But when I first saw it, I was like, well, one, I didn't know that China had that much religious restriction. I knew that it would be that in China, like, there's not as much religious freedom.
Right.
But I didn't know that they were so, like, stepping in to, like, stop the spread of certain doctrines. And then so gung-ho on, like, oh, we're going to keep this thing communist. Like, we're going to make Jesus a communist. Like that's pretty. To me, I felt like I was like
That's wild.
pretty surprising. Like, yeah, the most surprising part of that video to me was how they changed that story in the Bible, because that's such a like. It really shows Jesus' character. Like so many people go to that story to show how we're supposed to like act now. Like people always say like, you know, you can't judge me. Like we're all sinners. Like, you know, this is how Jesus would act. And they were like, no, actually Jesus will stone you to death. That's what he'll do. You know? So I thought that was kind of extreme.
I was not surprised at all. I was not surprised because you get news. Sometimes, as a matter of fact, sometimes we get stories coming out into our quarterlies. So, you know, so sometimes we get some stories coming out of China, and I'm not surprised at all. I'm not surprised, especially with, and you can look this up. So we don't not just spitting stuff. Look up the Uyghurs and what they have done as far as all this is transitioning from taking them and putting them to camps and all the rest of it, trying to keep them segregated by themselves. So if you look that up, you'd see some surprising stuff. But me personally, I'm not surprised. End days.
Yeah, I'm not surprised either. And I'm not going to jump ahead, but I will point out, America is, you know, we are on about religious freedom, right?
Right.
And we have the motto, "In God We Trust." That's a reflection of separating ourselves from communism.
Okay.
So while China was embracing communism and atheism and things like that go along with it, the U.S. was trying to identify itself as separate from that, as a Christian nation. So we started putting "In God We Trust" on our money in I believe in the anthem, and you know, it became known as our motto, when in reality it was more a reflection of we're not communists and we need to separate ourselves from what's going on in communist countries at the time.
It was a political move. Okay.
I feel like that's a good, perfect transition. I was like, honestly, I have not much more to say than what you guys add, but I think that is a perfect transition, because I'm going to just ask in the chat, when you hear things like this, oh man, I hear myself. When you hear things like this, or what you're going to hear next, do you feel like this is end times or hard times? Like when you hear stories about what's coming out from China or from other places, do you think we're in the midst of an immediate-ish end time, or are we just going through hard times? So put it in the chat. What do you guys think, end times or hard times? But while you put that in the chat, there's been a lot going on in the world. Yeah. I mean, Andre doesn't know because he's under a rock, but everybody else knows. Like there's a lot going on, and maybe it's always been going on, because I feel like every generation that's been alive that I've talked to felt like their generation had some crazy stuff happening. But I feel like it's been amplified in this current lifetime, but maybe that's just me personally. You know, maybe it's just my experience as a younger person growing older, and now I'm more aware of things potentially. Now I'm more exposed to the news, for example. So I'm just wondering, are things truly different? Are things truly getting worse? Or is just the cycle, the circle of life, things go around and come around, and it's just another cycle of crazy and bad things? So I'm very curious what people think. I see Kay said it's hard times for now, but what else? So I'm hearing hard times. What do you guys think? What would you label, hard times or end times?
I think I would say hard times. Very hard times. I'll say that. Okay. Very hard times.
Very hard times. Okay.
There was a recent survey done, and NPR. So there was a recent survey done, and they figured out that people make less money now than they did before.
Right.
So we're definitely living in hard times.
He ain't got no money.
Definitely living in hard times. But to say that, I've always asked this question, and forgive me for asking this question. You don't have to answer the question, but I've often asked people this question: are people more violent now than they were before, or is it because guns and ammo and weapons are more accessible now, or is it because everybody has a camera?
So you see it.
So you see it in your face all the time. So so to put that into your question, perspective is it harder now, or is it because we see it in our face every day? Because we have more access to the news, we have more access to the internet. So hard times have always been here. People have always struggled, and the Bible actually says the poor we will have with us always. Always we'll have poor people, but it's very hard now. Not only is it hard now, but these are end times as well. So we're seeing stuff that we've never seen before. The Bible says that in these last days, people's hearts will be failing them for fear. I was just talking to Mike outside with his kids, and I'm like, how do you feel when you send your kids to school? And he's like, I sent my kids to Seventh-day Adventist school. And he started to talk about what happened in California with the Seventh-day Adventist church that was shot up. And the church here, the school here, actually hired a security guard.
Wow.
So we think that, this will never happen. Not here, not us. It will never, but we're living in times where the Bible says people's hearts will be feeling them for fear, and we see that. So I know we're definitely living in end times, but we're definitely living in harder times.
So I will also say we are living in hard times, but I do want to answer your question. Are people more violent today? So I follow this page on YouTube, Elephants in a Room, by Ken LaCorte. He used to run Fox News. Now, I'm not a fan of Fox News, but I do like every so often to get, what people other than what I think. I want to hear the opposite perspective. But in this actual show that he does on YouTube, he tries to stay in the middle. And for the most part, he does. And he talks about that. Are we actually living in more violent times? And he's done the research. He's a journalist. So good that he ran Fox News. And he says from his research, the research shows that we're actually living in times safer with less violence than before. Now, you have to account for the fact that the Earth's population is significantly larger than it has been in the past. But if you're talking in perspective, we're actually living in safer times than those that came before us have or did.
Interesting.
Now, and you also have to account the reason we feel it so, and I think every generation could probably have said the same thing, that I feel like we're living with more violence. But that's because with every generation, there's been new technology that has exposed you to more. So with our generation, we have social media. Before that, you had TV. Before that, you had the newspaper. All of those things covered world news. Before that, you don't know what was going on.
You just heard.
So, yeah.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah, I think it's hard to tell. It's definitely hard times. I agree with that. It's definitely hard. But I think it also goes to show that maybe that's just the sin problem of we're going to have hard times just being a human being. I think even if you interviewed Adam and Eve after the fall, they'd be like, man, we have some hard times.
These plants are
they
dying.
might have had the hardest time because they knew
I picked up a rose and it pricked me. What's going on?
Right. So I'm like, maybe they had the hardest, you never know. So I think maybe every generation has experienced hard times. But, I would say several generations have been expecting the Lord's return and maybe would have considered their time to be the end time. So it's just end times is just a current state in the sense of post Christ's death and resurrection. We're heading into the end time, and that's just the period of time. So it's kind of like a question of, do you just feel obviously we're closer than we've ever been? Right. We're always going to be closer than we've ever been. But is it at the door?
So when I think of what it must have been like to have lived in the 20s, World War I, World War II, the world is at war. There's war everywhere.
Right.
I would have thought, okay, first God's coming. That's it. This is it.
Yes.
For sure, because there's literally war going on everywhere. This is your life. And especially if let's say you were middle-aged at that time. So maybe you were born 1900. So now the war's going on, you're in your 20s, 30s, you saw pre-war, then you're like, the whole world is at war. Like, this sounds pretty, this is it to me, you know? And I feel like after that, in my brain, I feel like after that, it's still hard times, it's still end times, but it's a little bit different with a little more peace in the world, you know? Like, there's unrest a lot. There's like wars here, wars there, but it's not like the whole world. When was the last time an atomic bomb was dropped? You know, like
Only
just
twice.
wiping out, like, you know, a whole mass of people. You know, so it can seem like the time we're in now is hard times, but almost like lulling us to sleep a little bit. If you're one of the lucky people in America living like more of a cushy life and you're not in one of the war-torn places, you know. But I feel like during that time, the whole world was really feeling the effects of everything going on. Like, no matter who you were, no matter if you were rich, no matter if you were poor, you were like, you still felt really uneasy because of, like, you're in the United States, like, someone could just retaliate and bomb us right now. Like, we're over there bombing them. Like, this can happen, you know? So I feel like that's almost what's happening. The devil's got like unrest right now, but he's also lulling some people to sleep because he's like, you're comfortable. You don't got to worry about things. You can live under a rock and not know that anything's going on, you know?
Which is true, yeah. And that's the thing about being in the U.S. We've been very lucky to have a long period of peace.
Yeah.
Now, of course, you had the war in Afghanistan going on, and America is always in war. Actually, America always has to be in war. The only way for you to have a strong military is to always be in war. But we don't know that. You know, if you're not in the military or you don't have family members who are in the military, you don't know what's going on. Because, like, as long as the war was going on, 20 years of war, I didn't live my day thinking about, hey, we're in war, we're at war. Yeah. No, I was living my life trying to pay rent and make sure there's food in the fridge, you know? Because we've had as a country, we've had a long period of peace. So it's like now that certain things are happening that are really big, and technically we're not even at war. Like, this is the first time in a long time our country's not at war. But it seems as if we are, because of the news, the media, and the things that we've been hearing and listening and paying attention to, which we have to, because it's only a matter of time until we step into another one. And another thing I would say as a twist is the interesting thing about war is war brings relief. So, you know, with the Great Depression, it was a horrible time. It's hard to you know, be alive. People were struggling to survive. World War II was one of the best things to happen to the world because it brought the world out of the Great Depression. So it's like I was talking to former. When I was working on the Space Force base, and I was talking to someone there, and we were discussing it. This was last year, before the election even took place. And we're talking about how things are getting bad, finances, people are struggling, jobs, all of the things you can talk about. And he asked me the question, what would be the solution to all of this? What would reset all of this? My answer was war. Because history has shown that is usually tends to be. Of course, the cost of that is not great. Can we do it a different way, please? But my point being, like, sometimes the worst events, such as World War II, can actually be, you know, people actually started to see the light in the middle of war, because now people were getting jobs, they were going to work, women were in the workforce, and money started to flow through the economies throughout the world. And after that, you know, the war ended, the country went back to a period of peace. So that's just a twist to
so listen to this quote. Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times.
So it's a cycle.
It's a cycle.
It's a cycle.
And you know,
that's how it happens.
And you know who Ecclesiastes. You get that life is a cycle.
Life is a cycle.
And we go through it over, you know.
So and if we the problem that I see is that we don't pass stuff on to the next generation. And because with parents, being a parent, you don't want to see your kids struggle. Obviously. So you try to make sure that your kids never have to struggle, and you never have to want for anything. Although, you know, coming from the West Indies, you know, I had to fight. I had to fight for whatever I wanted. You know, nothing was handed to me, and I'm sure the same thing with you guys. Sorry. My fault. New guy. That you guys fought for what you wanted. and you had to fight for whatever you wanted. But it became easier for the next generation. It became easier to now we find there's a generation that they don't want. They would rather sit.
Yes. That's the effect of peace.
That's the effect.
That's the effect of peace.
And if they had a draft tomorrow.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, please don't. Please don't.
And the scary thing is they say if you look at history, every empire goes through the cycle.
Okay.
Where it's every generation works and achieves more than the previous generation. Then they finally get to a point where they stop advancing, and you end up with a generation of young people who no longer advance their parents. And it goes downhill from that. Empire falls apart, and a new one rises up. Right. So throughout history, that has occurred, and it's scary. Because looking at my generation now, I'm not sure how much further I got than my parents.
Interesting. Well, we have a very interesting way that we're going to divide up this episode.
Okay.
And by the way, Kimberly says hello, Gavin.
Yeah.
So we have political, religious, and social. So I don't know if you guys remember that. I think it was an episode where Drew was on. Was I on with Drew? I think.
Yeah, I think so.
And it was starting to go into like a little bit of the political realm, and I was like, okay, we're gonna come back to this at some point. Now, this is a little step in the water, but it's connected to the topic of end times or just hard times. So here it is. There's almost a type of war between left and right, conservatives and liberals, et cetera, et cetera. While there's always been a divide, it seems way more polarizing and personal now than what I perceived in the past.
Yeah.
So the question is, why is that? And now it could be connected to what you said, Rodney. Like, we have more access to media. There's cameras everywhere. There's TVs everywhere. There's mics everywhere.
The algorithm is out to get you.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's algorithms, so things are smarter than ever. You have social media now. But overall, like, even if the content is there, that's not necessarily a problem. Why is there such a strong divide, though? Like, it's okay to have your personal beliefs, but it's becoming personal. So why is that? Why does it seem more like that now?
I've noticed, what I've personally noticed is we could talk before, and we could disagree before. But if I disagree with what you believe in, it's almost as you believe that I hate you. I don't hate you. I just don't believe what you believe. So I'm having a conversation with somebody, and we're talking about the current president, and you don't like the man. I'm like, I did not say that. I don't believe him. I have an issue with what he's doing. I pray for the man every day. I pray because I say this, and some people disagree with it. His success is our success.
Exactly.
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
So I pray for the man every day, and I pray for his success. Right? But when I tell people that, they're like, "No, you don't pray." I'm serious. I pray for the man every day. But what I'm saying is, if I don't believe in what he just said, or something he said that I don't agree, well, that means you don't like the man. No, so we can't disagree. We can't disagree, and it becomes personal to where people feel attacked. And if you're like, oh, you're talking about me. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. We have to get back to a place where we can disagree and not hate each other.
Yeah.
I still love you. You're still my friend. And, back in the day, we would sit at a corner, we would talk politics. Or we would sit in class and talk politics. But you can't even talk politics at the job anymore because people want to fight you if you say the wrong thing. Or, and so this group, so we believe what we believe, so we're going to sit over here. We believe what we believe, so we're going to sit over here, and no one comes in the middle anymore.
Yeah.
So then we as Christians, who we try to walk a thin line because we don't want to step on anybody's feet. And we left sometimes in the middle because we don't want to discuss politics or whatever. So, well, can we talk about food or something else, please? Because I don't really. So that's what I see from my personal standpoint.
I think people, to add to what you're saying, I think politics has always been somewhat, you're going to support something that reflects a lot of your beliefs. I don't think there's a side that truly encompasses your entire belief system. But what I'm seeing online now is that it's no longer just about politics, but it's like, it's being painted as a belief in the sense of you're not for me if you don't support.
People are
see
taking
what I see.
like beliefs in politics and making it their identity. I think
Identity politics.
that's what's happening now that wasn't happening before. It was, I believe this, you believe, we can talk about it because if you disagree with me, I'm still your friend.
Okay.
I'm still Andre.
Right.
But now it's like, oh, you're not for like me as a person. No, it's just something that you believe. You are not your belief. Like you are not, you know, a liberal. That is not your whole being.
Right.
You're not a conservative. That's not your whole. But people now, it seems to like they've attached their identity to it, so it feels like an attack on them.
So I disagree.
Oh, you disagree?
I think
Okay.
that, well, not necessarily with what you said as a whole. I disagree with one part. Both of you said the same thing, though. I disagree that identity politics is new. Identity politics, I think, has been around as long as identity has, or politics has been. Identity politics, if you think back to the civil rights movement, that was identity politics. You think of the switch of ideologies between Republicans and Democrats, because remember, Democrats, I believe at the time of the Civil War, was saying, yes, let's keep our slaves. And Republicans were saying, no, let's free our slaves.
Remember who freed the slaves?
Then they Republican. Then there was a switch. That switch was due to identity politics.
Okay.
So identity politics has always been around. Now, what I always say is that people want, if you believe in voting and you do vote, which I personally think everyone should, if you vote, you always end up voting against your interest.
Huh.
You always end up voting against your interest, because I think Shane
Make
said
it make sense.
I think Shane said it, is that we will never totally agree with one side.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you will always end up at some point in time, you will have to choose what is most important to you, and you will end up voting based on what is most important to you. And I'll give you an example. When I was working in Miami, so I am registered Democrat only because the state of Florida requires you to be registered to participate in the primaries.
Okay.
If it weren't for that, I would be an independent. I consider myself to be left-leaning center, right? Of course, currently, I'm a little bit more left in my attitude. But when I was working in Miami, I worked in an Adventist school. So here you have a private school. 83% of the students were receiving state funds, scholarship, right? Now, Democrats don't believe in school choice for the most part. Republicans do. So the only reason school choice exists in Florida is because of Republican leadership.
Okay.
Now, I personally believe, having worked in also private school, public schools, I do believe that tax dollars should go for public use.
Okay.
So I don't believe in school choice. You know, I see the benefits in it. I understand the benefits in it. But if I were to vote one way or another, I believe public funds should go for public use. Once you start giving it to private institution, now you're dealing with private ideas that can go in every single way, right? So, but when I vote, my job, 83% of my students are in the school because of a state scholarship.
Okay.
Now I'm voting for a Democrat, knowing that when that Democrat gets into office, they're getting rid of school choice. Guess what I lose? My job. So there's an idea now of why I'm voting against my interest.
Okay.
Because there's something more important to me than my job. And I'm voting based off of those things. So I'm voting for that. And I don't just vote Democrats. I vote for whoever I think is the best. Like I said, I'm center leaning. I'm left center. But I'm going to vote for the person based on what is most important to me, knowing that there are other things that I'm voting against my own interests.
Yeah, it can affect you in some negative
whatever
ways.
you're talking about dealing with politics, you have to vote based off of, you're always going to vote for something like, talk with someone, you'll always find common ground. But then when it comes to your vote, you're going into different directions. Because yes, we have common ground, but what might be most important to you may not necessarily be what's most important to me.
But what I find with the last election cycles is a new dynamic that we never had to deal with before, and that's targeted ads. Well, they've always been targeted ads, but what the algorithm? We talk about the algorithm, and so you like to listen to a certain, you like this politician or whatever, and that when you turn your radio on, guess what? That's all you're getting.
Yep.
When you turn YouTube on, that's all you're getting.
Yeah.
And you sometimes you have to step away. I become an Andre sometimes where I have to step away from the news. And I think we all come to that point where we step away and be like, okay, not today. Not today. I can't do it today. I can't do it today. The first 5 stories, death. This man did this man did this. And you have to pull back. But we see where before coming from the West Indies, in the West Indies, voting can be very dangerous. And it becomes very, I mean, to the point where people are killed. For believing whatever they believe, and you can't say, when voting time comes around, and when in my experience in the West Indies, you try to keep yourself hush because you go in the rum bars or whatever, you tell people, then you might get stoned, killed, stabbed, or whatever. So it's always been a divisive. It's always been divisive. But I've noticed now it's been targeted. To where and my friend, we were talking about this the other day. He likes to listen to talk shows. And when the algorithm realizes, oh, you like talk shows? Okay. Here. You remember when Netflix would do that? Since you watched this, here's something. So here, and that's what they target you just to keep you watching, and that's what they feed you, and that's you listen to it in your car, you listen to it while you're watching stuff, and you're working, and this is all you get. Till it becomes personal, and then that becomes your identity.
So that's what's different about this political season is that is completely new to the political scene. Is the fact that it is based on now. We live in a capitalistic society, so the fact is every single one of us, we are products.
Okay.
Right. So how can I make money off of you? That's the question. So when you get to social media is looking how to make money. Now, science teacher here. How the brain works. If you remember back to biology, you talked about fight versus flight. Our brain is automatically set up to be afraid.
Okay.
So because that's a survival skill. Right. If you're not afraid, you're there smelling the flower and there's a lion behind you. So the more important thing is not that sweet flower, it's the danger. So our brain is automatically alert to danger. Right. So when it comes to the algorithm, fear and anger wins. I'm trying to set up an algorithm where I can just get back to the days when it used to be, what is it called? Cuteness overload. Okay. Like where are the cuteness? You remember you used to go onto Facebook, that's so cool, and there used to be like cats and dogs and bunny rabbits in a cup. I can't find that anymore. No. Because fear trumps those things. And the algorithm works that way. So if they can get you angry, so that's why we're pulled more. It's not that there are more people on the far left and the far right. People are where they've always been. Okay. But it's because the algorithm is pulling me into the anger that associates with my side. Right. So because I'm left leaning, the algorithm is pulling me to that anger on the left side. And it seems like I'm extreme in how I feel and how I respond, because for me it's common sense and that's how I feel. But the way I feel and how I feel about it, that means the person on the opposite side can feel the same way and they're justified for it. Right. But that anger is like, it makes us feel separated.
When the two of you come together to have a conversation, impossible. I'm in my feelings. No, I'm in my feelings.
Well, you guys brought up some really good points, because I was telling the guys here on the show before we started that I was watching an episode of Jubilee yesterday, and it was like one conservative versus like a bunch of liberals, but everyone was Christian. And so they were just going back and forth of just like, well, how could you be Christian and believe this, right? And it's like, but both sides are seeing like conservatives, like in a sense, are just like, how could you be liberal and Christian, and vice versa? Like, how could you be conservative and like Christian national? It's almost like that.
What's crazy? What's crazy is that in most cases, not all, but in most cases, both sides are correct.
And that's what I even saw in the episode. Like, there was certain things where if they paused, they were like, okay, I feel like we're kind of saying the same thing. And that's the thing, like anger, and that's probably the brain. It's just like, you're in just one section of just being fired up,
Yeah.
that even
right,
common sense
You
isn't
can't hear.
able to.
You can't hear what the other person is saying.
Yeah.
But then I also think that's just how society is built. When you think about the rise of reality TV shows, right? I remember, like, the first one I remember is The Real World. Like, I remember that starting, like, probably in the early 2000s with MTV and stuff
Right.
like that. And, like, they've only gotten more
Yeah.
and more extreme.
yeah.
So there's a lot more and they're more extreme. And one of the highlights, like whenever you see on TikTok or YouTube when they're doing reviews about the shows and stuff like that, people are almost always interested in like the fight scenes.
Right.
Like what's
Right,
the
right,
drama,
right, right.
all that type of stuff.
yeah.
When you think about Kevin Samuels and how he used to talk to people in relations, like, I'm trying to find this man or this woman and I can't find him. He's like, you know, what's your height? What's your weight? What's it? Like, you know, all this type of stuff. And he's like, his method gave views. Like, those are the type of things, like, people are attracted to drama. And it's just like, I think that's where the algorithm also works against us a little bit, because it's just like, we don't realize that our brain is doing that. It's attracted to that. It's like that fear thing. It's just like, you know, one side's like, if you do this or you don't do this, this is what's going to happen. Like, but they know that the people that are producing this content knows what it takes,
course.
and they see the success, and they don't care how it's going to affect society or you.
Yeah.
They're
Buy
just
my
like,
T-shirt.
Dollar signs.
that's just it. That's all they see is just, you know, the dollar signs behind it. So
sad.
if you vote a certain way, you can't be my friend. I had a rise. I've seen a rise in this type of mindset on Facebook, where there are people like, you know, I'm like, you can delete me. You can, I'm going to block you. I've seen a lot more of that, just from the fact that people are like, if you vote a certain way, then we have nothing more to talk about.
There are dinner tables where people sit and don't speak.
There's
This
been divorces.
No divorces.
Will be interesting.
And I wonder if, because you remember the whole vaccine thing, where well, I can't come to your house because, and we see that pushed into even our politics now, where, you know, nah, you stay over there. It's like, you're not wearing a mask. You believe in what you believe in. Just stay over there with your non-mask. We'll stay over here with our mask. But that's so sad.
But this is the thing. Some of these, and we're going to transition soon, but I'm just going to give you a very stark example without, I guess, to try to paint this picture, right? From a Christian standpoint. There's Christians, if you take the idea of like abortion, for example, and there's people on both sides.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to connect this to, if you vote a certain way, you can't be my friend.
Okay.
There's certain people that feel so strongly that it's just like, if you vote in a direction that could support something like abortion, which is defined as, for them, killing, right? Then you're basically like a murderer.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't really see why we should be friends. And on the other side, it's like healthcare choice. Like, if you believe in not allowing people to have choices, are you like aligning with a dictator in a sense of like, do you have like a, so it's just like, why should we be friends? And I think that's kind of like how things are being polarized, because it's just like,
What you're saying consistently
Okay.
and how you're saying it,
Okay.
because there are people that will say things in a manner that demonstrate you're no longer a safe space for me. And that is a logical reason for cutting someone off, is if you are no longer a safe space for me.
I want you to clarify something that I'm understanding. Would you say logical is subjective? Because is logical more so like, my interpretation is, I don't feel like logically you're a safe space for me. So that's like more of like a personal assessment than a general like, oh, this is logic.
Well, I mean, if I say you're no longer a safe space for me, it don't matter what you think.
Well, I just heard the word logic, and I usually feel like logic
logic
is kind of, I guess it is subjective,
Yeah.
but it has like a feel of
definite,
like factual of
Right.
like this is common sense. You know, like that's what it like people usually hear when they hear that. So I just wanted to make sure,
because again,
I
going
wanted
back
see
to
what
the
you were
point
saying.
of it's not necessarily that you're wrong, it's that we see it differently. Because even within the Bible itself, it's like God is saying the same thing in different ways.
Okay.
And how you interpret it is not necessarily wrong. It's more of a question of, is it the best way? So take, for example, God told Israel, you're supposed to be a peculiar people. And there were some laws that came along with that, that those were not compassionate.
Okay.
Right? But
Okay.
then you have the same God who says, be compassionate to the poor, the widow, the alien.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So you have God saying two things that seem completely different from each other, but it's the same God.
Right.
So when it comes to like immigration, for example, someone can look in the Bible and see where God, directly say, stay away from those who are different from you, or where God says you need to convert and be as one in terms of Christianity, right? So you have people who be like, yeah, God agrees with deporting people. It's for one, it's the law. If people are not following the law,
Right.
as long
Right.
as we're doing things legally,
Okay.
so that can be justified legally. It can be justified morally, based on how you interpret it,
Okay.
and you can use the Bible to justify it. But at the same time, where God says, accept the alien, and
Right.
and
Right.
have
Be a good neighbor.
be a good neighbor, and all of those things. So it's like I'm looking at compassion. So yes, the law says you should deport these people, but then I'm like, but where's the compassion in how you're doing it?
Okay.
So that's the
okay.
difference. You're not wrong in saying deport the people. It's the law, and the law is not always right or moral, but you can be justified in that belief. You're not necessarily wrong.
Okay.
But in my perspective, I'm looking at the compassion side of it.
Okay.
Now, me having compassion, is that wrong? No, it's not. But you
No.
may look at it and say, well, that's not the way I agree with it, or that's not the way that I see it. Not necessarily that either of us are wrong. It's just our interpretation of how we view it and we see it. Now, me coming from a place of compassion, if you're saying kick out everybody right away without giving them due process, you're no longer a safe space for me.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I don't really cut people off like that, but you have to do something serious for me to cut you off.
I have some thoughts in my mind about you. So Yasmin says, and I'll go to you. Politics has become a kind of a religion for many people today because traditional religion used to provide a shared moral framework. When people move away from religion, they often look to politics to fill that moral and identity gap, which is why political beliefs have become so deeply personal and emotional.
Yes,
I agree.
that's a great point.
That's a very good point. I think even in the surveys and assessments, we see a decline in people that identify with a religion. I feel like it's constantly declining. I think recently, though, I did see an article that said that there's a certain generation, and I think it's like, let's say between our age groups, that are returning to the church.
I think
I did see that recently. So there seems like there is a little bit of a turn, but for a while, like people and religion, a lot more people were saying like, I remember when it first came out that I'm with Jesus, I'm not really with the church. Like that became a thing for a while, So like people started disassociating themselves from organized religion. And that's where I could see, what Yasmin said, would line up of just like,
because they had to go somewhere.
Right. So that makes sense.
Now, the scary thing with that, I will say, is that you have more so, I think, older Caribbean Black Adventists who will say you should not vote. You should not participate. There's nowhere in the Bible that says you should participate in voting like that.
Well, they have a democracy.
That's what I always say.
So,
There was
so
no
what
democracy
were they
in the
voting
Bible.
on? As an old West Indian.
But so it's a question of, and it's hard to, because then there's the separation of church and state, right? That doesn't mean you can't talk about politics in the church, but you have to be careful on who talks about politics and how they use their platform to do it. But I do feel that it's very important that, yes, if you're a Christian and that is the first, the most important thing in your life, you still have to be cautious of what's going on in your society, what's going on in your world, and as much as possible, participate in that.
You have to.
Because if the Bible talks about, helping your neighbor and being neighborly and doing all these things, how do you do that if you have no voice and you're allowing someone else to dictate what happens in the world around you?
Two things. I remember for GC, and I remember it wasn't this last cycle. I want to say it was 2 cycles before, and there was a group of people trying to get in, and there was a congressman who was very, very instrumental in helping them to get in. If that congressman was not there, they would have not been able to have access to the United States to come to Congress. So we have to be a part of it. But here's a question for you. So you're talking to one of your friends, and a topic comes up, and then you get to realize that this. You said what now? You believe in what now? What do? Do you immediately? Because as Christians, we tend to birds of a feather. You know, we hang with who we know, and we try to keep our friend. You can name 5 friends. Apart from the 5 friends that you have, you know, as Christians, our friend groups are really small. And the older you get, I can tell you, it becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. And then you have people at work that you hang with sometimes. But then there's those who curse. So you try to limit your time with those. There's those who will go outside and smoke, and they want you to come outside and tell you something, but So we hang with those that we know. So you're hanging with those that you know, and something out of left field, they come off with this. What did you say? All right, we can't be friends. We cannot be friends. Is that how we handle situations?
All right. So I'm not too quick to cut people off, but I will recategorize you.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I believe that friendship is a big umbrella.
Okay.
And you have different like tiers and shelves.
Okay.
Or I would say boxes. You know, like you have different friends for different purposes, different conversation. I'm going to talk to certain people about I'm going to share this with certain people. You know, like that's how I think the friendship umbrella works. And based off of things like that, I'm not going to quickly do it. Well, let's have a discussion. Let me not just judge and jump, you know. But based off of that, I might be like, okay, so you're not going to be the friend that I'm going to talk to about certain things. Or we're not, you know, you're just not that kind of friend. But I still met, like, you know, we're cool. You know, I don't think of you different as a person. I'm just like, you have a polarizing view on that I disagree with. And so we're going to steer. Because you're in life, you're going to encounter people that are different from you. I don't think that all your friends should think exactly like you. You need challenging, you know, you need, you know, otherwise you're just you could be going in a very wrong direction and you're just, you know. So
the reason why I asked that question is because along with that comes life experiences. So you might be talking to a person about abortion and they're, no. And the next person's like, yeah, you have to, but you don't know in the back that person was raped. So we never know what's going on in the backstory.
Yeah.
So that's why sometimes you have to listen longer rather than jump on a conclusion and get a backstory. And sometimes we may never get the backstory. Yeah. Because, you know, we talk about this, you know, a group of people will be talking and they'll be talking about, oh, hey, God is so good. God did this for me. There's always one person just slightly outside of that crowd who did not get the miracle. They didn't get the job they wanted. They didn't get the car they wanted. Things did not work out for them. So they don't have that experience. So they're just outside the crowd listening. But God is still good. That doesn't mean that God is not good, right? So we can't be so easy. You can't jump and judge so quickly. So having a conversation, and I don't know about the boxing, putting people in boxes. I am like, okay. Not mad at you.
Group of friends.
I do not agree with what you said, but we cool. Doesn't mean I hate you. We cool. But that's just
that's good. This is very, very good. I like the insights. I like even the comments that have been coming in. So as we transition, because it's not necessarily getting easier, we're just sidestepping now. It's hard to find a side or a viewpoint that doesn't twist the story to support their view. And I think that's the hard part.
Yeah.
I think whenever people go to lengths to hold their side, that's where I've seen the problem. And I'm just like, I've had conversations with people where I'm like, and we could say this is personal opinion, but I'm like, I feel like we should be able to have common ground here. Even as I'm listening to us talk, I'm like, we kind of believe the same thing, but it's like the sides aren't willing to give a win to like, or what could be right, what could be perceived as a win. So I think that's also, you know, a problem. But I mean, that's where we are. So from now, politics, we're going to religion. recently there was a talk about a rapture happening. It was supposed to happen September 23rd through 24th. That was the range. I remember I was in Japan and I was just like, I was telling Jamal, he was my roommate. I was like, man, anytime now this is supposed to happen, right? But
Unless we're both lost.
you know, and then, you know, when I'm starting to look on social media and we're seeing that hadn't happened, you know, people started, and of course it was joking probably, but like, you know, you don't know what time zone. And I was like, you know, well, that's true. You know, in Japan, we're 13 hours ahead. So it is possible that it could be behind us. So like, maybe it's going to be the 25th for us, you know, you just never know. And so I did rewatch the video of the talk about this rapture to get refreshed. And so some of the things he said was, he saw Jesus speak to him.
Right.
He described what Jesus looked like. So I think he had said like brown flowing hair, white robe.
Who were the two ladies?
And I'm not sure.
They were the hosts, twin sisters.
Oh yeah.
And they were the host of the show.
Oh, okay.
So he was a guest speaker.
Oh, he was a guest speaker. Okay. Thank you for clearing.
So I guess the video I saw was maybe it could have been excerpts, to be honest, because I just saw him and then I saw a lady that said, "Don't discount him." But so this is what he said, that Jesus said, "I will come for my church. And then there would be 7 years of tribulation for those left behind. Then after 7 years, Jesus would come back to earth and rule as king." When it didn't happen at that exact time, people were saying that it depends on the time zone, like I said. When it didn't happen after all the time zones had passed, the organizer came out and states that it actually is scheduled for this month, October 16th through 17th. We might be running out of time. But according to this, October 16th through 17th, the rapture of the church would happen. Apparently, from the explanation provided, the Enoch calendar is the September dates translated to October in the Gregorian calendar. So that's the explanation that came out. So my question became, and maybe I'll put a couple of these questions out. Will the same people still believe him? Like there was people that started selling stuff, leaving their jobs. And one of the ladies that came on talking about this situation, she said, don't discount him. A lot of people came to Christ because of this situation. And if they were coming to Christ, the devil would never be happy about that. So how could this be of evil? And so I was like, that's a very interesting
viewpoint.
That's what I'm saying.
Let's talk about it. Why is that a dangerous viewpoint to have?
Justification.
Right, because I'm like, they talk about, like God talks about, Jesus himself talks about, in the last days, like things will happen where it will seem like it's a God thing. It will seem like, well, if people are just coming to Christ, then this is good. But it could very easily be a trick of the devil. And now he's got you in his clutches because you're here thinking it's God himself. You're thinking this is like Jesus, but he's like, oh man, no. Like the devil always goes very close to the truth, very close by Jesus, but just skews it just a little bit. So it's very dangerous to be like, well, if people are being brought to Christ, there's no problem. Oh no. I think there's going to be a drove of people that think they're being brought to Christ in the last days, but they're not.
That's it.
And is that their fault?
Well, whose fault would it be? What do you mean by that?
Okay, now it's one thing to blame the representative of that message. So let's say Joshua, I think is his name, right? And he's preaching this message. It sounds good. Let's say he's saying, repent, the rapture is coming, Jesus is coming. And then people are like, oh man, like this is crazy. Like I better get things in order and let me get ready. I'm giving my life to Christ, and they give their life to Christ. So I'm saying, okay, definitely in error, assign blame to Joshua, right? Now I'm talking about the people that the lady said have come to Christ. Now that's where my question is of,
could this have been a vehicle for them to come to Christ?
Is it possible that they came to Christ?
I 100% believe that it can happen. Why I think the danger is to believe that, to use that to assign validity to something. Okay. Oh, this is valid because it brought people to Christ. No, don't. I think that's very dangerous. Good, but I absolutely do believe that God uses the devil's tactics against him. Absolutely. I think there's many times that the devil may be trying to do one thing, and God's like, all right, yeah, you do your thing, but you don't realize that this is actually going to bring some people to me. And I love when God does that, because I just love to see the devil lose. Like, ha, gotcha. So yeah, absolutely. I think that's completely possible. I just don't think we should use that as a litmus test for the validity of something.
Okay.
Why I now, because I was just setting it up, but my thing is, if there's texts that talk about if it were possible, even the very elect would be deceived.
Yeah.
Is that, or could that even be an example of, who knows what the very elect definition
have been deceived. We are living proof, because our church was founded on this same rock.
And that's what I was gonna say.
This same pillar our church was founded on, the Great Disappointment. And we know dates were set, and setting dates is nothing new.
Yeah.
Right. We've seen through history people set dates. People have dreams. I can't discount anybody's dream, because I am not in that person's body, and I don't know who's showing you this dream.
Right.
But we know that the Bible, that we know that in the last days, God says people will have dreams. I can't discount their dreams. I can't. But we know that we were founded on, the Great Disappointment. And then after revisions, and after they came back and took a bigger look at it, so this is what was actually happening. God was moving into this place and this space, and not actually coming back for his people. And we have to be careful when people are setting dates. We have to be, because the Bible says no man knows the time, the hour. So we have to be living like the 5 wise virgins. Stay ready.
Stay ready.
Because you never know. So stay ready. Because and Luke, I had this pulled up. Luke 21 verse 7. When the disciples were asking, so what will be the signs? What will happen in the last days? One of the first things he said,
don't be deceived.
Yeah. Verse 7, he says, and it said, take heed that ye not be deceived. That's the first thing. Red letters. That's the first thing he said. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ. So and we see people all the time saying that they're Christ. There was a guy in Miami walking around with a cross, saying that he was Christ, he's the resurrected, and he's walking around. I'm like, okay. I don't think so, but okay.
I think so.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So we have to be very careful. And that was Luke chapter 21, verse 7.
And it's funny, because to us talking, and you say an example like that, we're just like, obviously you're not Christ, right?
But it's going to get crazier.
But this is the thing. I'll give this example, right? I don't feel like we've seen anything yet,
That's
right?
what I'm saying.
Right. And so I remember when COVID happened, and for a while, being an essential worker at the hospital, right? Going in my car those 2 weeks when nothing was, like, the streets are clear.
Oh, what a great
I'm
time.
like, seeing people only outside. I'm just like, it was strange times.
Yes.
Like, it was just like, And I honestly, the thought came to my head. I'm like, okay, you have to wear a mask. Like, people are, apparently dying from this. I'm just like, man, this feels end time-ish. The church is being closed. Like, man, I was like, man, I've always heard about a time where churches, you won't be able to worship. And I'm like, man, but this is a switch up. Like, this didn't come the way I thought. And so, like, I'm starting to think of these thoughts. And, we're still here. So, it could have been part of the end times, but it wasn't, like, the thing, obviously, right? But my thing is, some of these things seem obvious right now.
Okay.
But there's still scripture that's just like I said, if it were possible, even the very elect would be deceived. And I'm just like, I guess my prayer then becomes like, okay, God, like, some of these things that might stick out to me as foolish, right? I'm just like, man, I hope I stay sharp, because I can maybe identify these things and be like, okay, this doesn't seem quite right with lining up with what the Bible says. But if times are getting harder, and then more and more things are going to happen that's starting to play with their mind and stuff like that, it's just like, how do you know that you're always going to be able to identify that this is not Christ? Because there's going to be, like you said, 99.9% truth, and just a little bit of error messes it up. But you might not be able to tell.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, I feel like we're being lulled to sleep now. So what happens when we get the switch up? The Jesus impersonator that's actually out here performing miracles and stuff. What happens when he's
And
quoting?
seeing is believing.
What happens when he's quoting our Bible?
Right.
Right, because that's what Satan came and did to Jesus. He quoted the Bible. You're like, isn't this true? It seemed pretty. You're like, it's pretty. If I was Jesus, come on now. If I'm hungry,
Right.
and he's like, you have the power, turn these stones to bread. I don't really see the problem. You know, like, come on, like, what happens when you get that switch up?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I can absolutely see how it's going to be very possible to get tricked.
So there's a show on Netflix. I'm not going to recommend it because I don't remember what the rating was. But there's a show on Netflix called The Messiah, or just Messiah, and it is about
I've
that.
seen-
It's about someone who shows up. He never claims to be Jesus, but he's identified as Jesus has returned. And it goes through a whole series of different things, him doing things happening. Never clarifies whether or not it was really the Messiah or not. So it was just interesting in the fact that somebody just showed up, signs and miracles. People believed it was Jesus, but there was never an answer to whether or not he was. And it's like either people followed him or they didn't. But a lot of people did follow.
You know, it's interesting. Again, so much videos. Like I did watch a video that's just like, you know what? I think it was like a psychologist or something. It's just like, you all know that our minds weren't designed to be constantly intaking something. Like, you know, you're supposed to have that reset where there's nothing, no podcast playing, no video to be watched or whatever. What I'm about to say next now defeats that purpose. I just realized how many times I've quoted, I saw this video already. But either way, I was watching something about Halloween, about, you know, where it came from and all this type of stuff. And it was apparently like an ex-Satanist that has found Christ, and a Christian was interviewing him, and he's just like, you know, what Christian, like, one thing that makes the devil happy is to see Christians celebrating Halloween and thinking that just trick or treating or just dressing up is all it is. When like this is like their like the pinnacle day of the year for Satanists and the dark side, right? So he's talking through that, and so the interviewer asks, like, what is it that Christians need to do to kind of best protect themselves from the evil that's around, especially when there's like Satanists and stuff like that, and you just would never know. And he's just like, we were never able to touch people that were being prayed for or praying. And he's just like, and I was like, and the guy's like, no, repeat that. He's like, seriously, people don't realize like the power of prayer. And so if the devil could keep them from praying, they were not protected. And there's a lot of Christians that don't pray. And so, like, when I think about scripture and just like, you know, the amount of times things like fast and pray is mentioned, or you need to pray, you need to watch and pray, you need to, like, there's a lot, the Lord's prayer, like,
pray
there's
without
just,
ceasing.
you know, when Jesus was going through those hard times, praying and like, you know, or quoting scripture, like whatever it was, it kind of stuck out to me as just like, wow, as Christians, it might not even have to be a deception. It's just like, you're just not even accessing the power that you would have to keep you in that elect, so you're not deceived. But it's just like, if you're running on autopilot, you will actually
remember Christ said, depart from me. Why would he say depart from me? Now, and these are people who went to church all the time. Every time the church door was open, they were in church.
It won't make sense to them.
Exactly. So I remember whenever it comes to this, I remember at the end, and I talk about this, at the end of Malcolm X, the movie. At the end of Malcolm X, there were these people, they were saying, I'm Malcolm X, I'm Malcolm X, I'm Malcolm X. And then the narrator says, you know Malcolm X, but do you know, well, how did we put it? You know, but you don't. Do you know of him, but you don't know him? So we know what we read about Malcolm X. You don't know what was his favorite color. What did he like? So there's a lot of us who know God. What is God's favorite color? Elder Clark said this to me once, and it never left me. He does not choose a tie unless he asks God, you like this tie? And you think about that for a second. When you get dressed on Sabbath morning,
Never even knew that. I'm his son. That's crazy.
When you get dressed on Sabbath, do you ever ask yourself, you think God would like this outfit? You think this fit is when we choose songs, does God really want to hear this song this Sabbath or whatever? We don't get God involved more and enough. We don't pray enough. And that is one of the things that the devil knows. Remember, the devil has all day to sit and think about you. And he puts a plan together for you.
Tailored to you.
Tailored for you. Because devil is not going to come to shame with Coca-Cola. That's not his thing. Please. But give him a nurse. No, I'm just he got something tailored just for you. And that's why a lot of us are deceived, and a lot of us and again, we don't study. Right? Same text in Luke. Same scripture. Luke chapter 21 talks about pestilences. And it might not and COVID was a blueprint for what's to come. COVID was a blueprint. They figured out, oh, so this is how we can shut churches down. This is how we can shut schools down. This is how we can get, and it was so ghostly driving on the turnpike. And I had a letter from management that says, you know, I'm an essential worker, whatever, I'm allowed to be, in case somebody, and I remember that fear of, oh, I don't want to get pulled over. I don't want to get stopped, but there's nobody on the street.
Well, you said a key word, and before you even said it, I was like, "Oh, this just really links back to what Gavin said." One of the key words is fear, and it's just like if you can be made fearful, there's power over you. But then that's why you have to know Scripture to say God has not given you a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. So it's just like, but if you don't even know that, or you're so drowned out by the noise of everything else going around you, then you will be, you know, deceived. But I have a question now for you guys in the last part of the religious part. The shows that exist, and there's drama in every religion. There are podcast shows that exist that just review, it seems like, sermons, church services, just to call out what's happened. Like, can you believe what happened at this church, or you know, during this service? And that's where it almost seems like their weekly content comes from. And then with it, they'll say like, thus saith the Lord. So they'll show this and show like, you know, what they're saying is wrong. And then they'll say with Scripture, thus saith the Lord, you know, X, Y, and Z. And so my question, and put it in the chat, y'all, the creator of these shows view it as calling out error to help people to not be led astray, and usually pair it with the Bible. But is this the right way? Is this a good way for sharing the gospel, or for keeping people in check, I guess, with the gospel? What do you think?
So I haven't seen any of those videos, but I can tell you that they learned that directly from people who do it in politics.
There you go.
Okay.
Because it is a money maker.
Yeah.
Is it morally right? I don't know. Is it financially smart in a capitalistic society?
Well,
It works. That's how you get views, and that's how you rack them up. And I was telling someone, like, throw a name, not random, throw a name out there, Candace Owens. However you may feel about her, you have to admit that her platform is very targeted to bring in views.
Right.
So that's, and she has, for the most part, you know, grown her wealth on that.
Okay.
So this is someone copying that format, not necessarily hers, because she's not the first to do that or only to do that. So they're just copying a format that works and brings in the views, and with the views comes in the money. Is that morally right? And how you know, how does God look at that?
So let's say so I remember, like, you know, growing up in the church and, you know, with Sabbath and stuff like that, sometimes nurses that worked on the Sabbath, like, their personal conviction would be like, I'll do the work on the Sabbath and I'll just give the money to the church. So let's say for these people, they're genuinely in their heart, they're like, money came because it became successful, but I'm not doing this for the money. You know, I'll even give my money away to charity. So let's say money was a non-issue and they just really feel passionate about like
to expose.
People are falling for the traps of what's happening in church nowadays. I need to point this out and show people the truth. So the question then becomes, is there a space for this in maybe the gospel work? Is this like the right way? Is it important that there's people out there pointing out these errors? Or should it be like really they should spend their time say like preaching the gospel? So
Well, I
that's
think
what I kind of want to
From that perspective, that would be what they're doing. If they feel that they found an avenue to preach the gospel, and that's the avenue that they're going to use. So going back to the question, is it morally right? The question of moral is now different if you're not doing it for the money and you're doing it as I've found a way to preach the gospel. Because you could take, people are different. Like me, if I'm in a crowd of people, I'm very quiet. Put me in front of a camera, it's a different me.
Yeah.
You know? So for some people, I can see how, they might have always been like, I want to preach the gospel, but it's not within me. I don't have the gift to do that. But all of a sudden, you find a platform that works for you. The question of moral is now different because your motive is different.
But there's a church that we all know that this is all they do. Is point out everything that's wrong with the church. And I wonder sometimes, and this might not be the best example, but I wonder sometimes if you were to do that with your marriage, like you get on podcasts, and my wife Cheryl, and I'm on a podcast talking about everything that is wrong with Cheryl and everything that Cheryl does wrong. Is that really love?
This is what you should do as a wife.
Yeah, this is exactly. And you flash it because they'll have something catchy. Because again, the algorithm is going to get you because they know that I like religious shows, right? So I look for something religious, so they're going to send me everything religious they can find. So like the last one, there was one this week. I guess I could say the name, Bird. It said, I can't believe Bird did this at church. And then it was like a praise break. They had a praise break going on or whatever. And I'm sitting there like, okay, here we go. And it was the same guy who always, so he will throw this headline out there to catch you. So you would come in and then I always, and Cheryl will talk about this all the time. I like to read the comments. I like to go through the comments and see what people are saying. And I'm like, ooh, okay, all right. All right, amen. And because, and again, they're making money. Some of them do make money. I do believe that maybe some of them started out with just trying to point some stuff out. This is what I found with the church, and this is some of the stuff that I see. But again, are you airing dirty laundry?
You know what?
Are you pointing stuff out?
It sounds to me like the shepherd's rod found social media.
Ooh,
If that's what they're doing.
Ooh. No longer standing outside the gates and yelling in. They found social media. You were saying something?
So, all right, I hear the question and I try to think, okay, like in the Bible, there were people whose purpose was to call out things, but all those people, it was very clear God told them to, they didn't even really want to do, a lot of them didn't want to do it themselves, but God was like, this is what I need you to do. All of them, it was not a money thing. So like Shane was saying, like if you throw money out the window, okay, now we can, but all of them were led specifically by God to do that. Now in these day and age, like it's hard to know, well, someone can claim that God, but I think outside of a specific calling from God to do that, then I don't think that's the way, the best way to preach the gospel or to get people to come to Christ is not by going out there and calling out everything. And then you have Paul in the New Testament that in multiple places he talks about like, look, don't be having these senseless arguments over like it's pointless. Let's talk about Jesus, his love. He came to save you. He's coming back. That's the stuff that he talks about that we should be preaching. But and in those times they were in a similar situation where they had quarrels in the church. They had differing opinions, and they would be like, there'd be people like, no, we've got to get these people circumcised. Hey, no, you can't be
Acts
eating
chapter
this.
15.
Yeah, so like we've seen this pattern before, and Paul's advice was stop the nonsense. All right, let's not get hung up on these things. Like this shouldn't be the thing that I think discussion about it is definitely healthy and good, but like that shouldn't be a selling point in preaching. Is these arguments and conflict.
But watch what Paul did, though. Acts chapter 15. So, backstory to the backstory. So, they were converting the non-Jews.
Right.
And here comes the Pharisaic Jews. Wait. They need to be circumcised. You know, you cannot take part in, does this sound familiar to you? You cannot take part in church like that.
Yeah.
You have to take them earrings off. You have to, this is outside of what we're talking about, but just the backstory. So what they did was Paul and the other disciples, they went away back to Jerusalem and they had a council.
Yeah.
And then they moved forward. Okay, so this is how we move forward. They didn't air all the dirty laundry outside and tell everybody. But again, if you're doing it because you think this is your calling, who am I to say that this is not your calling? My only thing is, you know, if I have an issue with the church, then I need to bring that up to the church. If I have an issue with a pastor, then I need to bring that up to the pastor. If I have an issue with and isn't this the model that God said? If you have an issue with your brother,
go to your brother.
Go to your brother. Leave your offering and go to your brother. Maybe if there was an internet in God's time, they would have said this. Leave your offering.
DMs.
I will agree with you. I don't think it's the best way because what it does is it causes confusion for the masses.
Exactly.
Because now you have a whole bunch of different people doing the same thing, saying different things. Like, okay, now who do I listen to? Now, I want to go back to something that you said earlier about structure, like tight structure. Some people do like that. Like if you look at the Mennonites and the Amish, they thrive under that type of structure where there's that conformity and everybody knows what is what. And if you kind of think about it, you can see a shift when the Adventist church started moving from being very conservative to being more liberal. So I think the Adventist church today is more divided in terms of what is acceptable than it used to be. It used to be, we're Adventists, this is what we do, this is what we wear, this is how we wear it, this is when we wear it. To where now it's like, well, depending on what church you're in, you know, go find a church that matches how you feel comfortable. So now it's like, you know, it used to be, I think, where you can go into any Adventist church and you know exactly what you're going to get.
Right.
Now you don't know what you're going to get. You step into a church and it's like, well, you got to search online first to figure out, is that the church I'm going to go to? Am I going to feel comfortable
that's
there?
That's a sad commentary.
Yeah. Is it? Well, but Yasmin said, how is this different from what most of our pastors are doing today? And I guess it's just like when
How's it different?
when I was talking, I guess I think it was when I was talking about how people are kind of reviewing what's happening in churches. Pastors preach and include that type of stuff too. True. I mean, we're on a show reviewing them, talking about other people, right? True. So it's just like, I guess at the end of the day, your source of truth has to be the Bible first and only, like God, the Bible, because if your source of information and spiritual feeding is just media, that's when it's just going to be confusing and noisy. So I think it could get really, really confusing of like, man, what do I believe? Because again, like we said with the political section, you have these guys that are saying, like, man, look at what's happening in the church. Like, we're losing our way. Like, you know, come back to Christ. And that sounds compelling. Like, it sounds like...
Why? There's two things they're targeting.
Right.
Fear and anger.
Right. And then there's the other side that's just like, you know, these are extremes. And, like, you know, why does it have to be, you know, this way? So...
But with a pastor, though, with a pastor preaching, he's going to bring that back to... and I would hope. I would hope that his focus, you know, this is what we do, but this is what we need, and bring some scripture and show us this is what we need. This is the path we need to be going down. This is the path we need to be walking.
You find less of that today.
I noticed
than you used to.
I noticed, and the Bible talks about that in Revelations. People having itchy ears. You're preaching a sermon that get a laugh and get people riled up, but you're not preaching in the gospel. And so you ask 3 people after the sermon, what was the sermon about? Oh, you remember the joke that he said? Right. Okay.
So unfortunately for them, like everybody else, they're competing with what social media has done.
True.
Like our attention span is so short. You know, so it's like
if
they
you
have
don't talk a certain
compete,
way, at a certain speed, a certain pitch. Don't have this.
And I think a lot of pastors are learning to preach differently to kind of combat that.
Cadence.
And there's some skill, I guess, but
yeah, that's why I like it. I like. I mean, the guy we had the other day, last week, he was really good. He was really good. He preached.
Miami.
I don't remember his name.
Oh, okay. Well, we're gonna have to look back.
Homecoming.
Oh yeah.
He
Pastor Evans. Yeah.
Yeah, he
Yes.
preached us.
Yeah, he was good,
preached a
yeah.
sermon. Go back and see it.
So the last part is socially. All right.
Oh,
Racism. Come back to. Oh, so somebody posted, "Come back to Christ is the problem. It should be pushed forward to Christ. What we did in the past doesn't mean it was right."
That's true.
I wanted to
Or
pick
the
that up
only
when
way.
Gavin
Or
was
the
talking
only
about
way,
West
yeah.
Indian, older West Indians.
Yeah.
I consider this as an older West Indian, not the oldest, but as an older West Indian.
Yeah.
I can say that growing up, because honestly, I grew up in a household where I remember my brother had this little makeshift radio thing we were listening to. We were out of school, we were listening to music, whatever. And I remember my father coming home and unplugging the music. I remember that vividly because you listen to a certain kind of music, you only do Seventh Adventist, you only do these things. And we came to the United States and we want to tell the people in the United States how to be religious and how to be good Seventh Adventists. And I'm like, okay, they've been doing it for a lot longer than we have, but and let me say it this way. We in the West Indies have a very Eurocentric way of worshiping.
We do.
Right? So, holy, holy. If you put a beat to that holy, oh no.
And it's also how they taught us to be religious.
Exactly.
Which is different from if you go to our state churches. They have been very different from what has been going on in the Caribbean. The idea of holiness is very different. So, yeah.
Now that's a good point because one of my first bullets under social space now is racism is being mentioned more and more, and so you guys kind of talk a little.
I know. Is it?
Yeah, no, it's not.
I don't think
it
it
is
is.
being mentioned more plainly in politics.
Okay, and that's why I was saying this is now going to start coming full circle because it's not just politics; it's also in the church too. Because there is questions, whether in the Adventist space, you wonder why there's regional conference and black and white conference, or when you guys were talking about ways of worship and it came from a certain style and a certain group of people, and why does it seem like there's not room for anything that isn't the holy, it's just like, so why is it only that? And so people are saying like, you know what, you guys haven't wanted to have the conversation about how this country was set up and how religion this religion was set up. And it's like racism to me has just been more of a card, for lack of a better word right now on the spot, that's been kind of used in conversation of like racism or this certain construct that we've been following has just been one type of people's way and hasn't really been welcoming of the whole of humanity. Let's just put it that way.
So I had a recent conversation. So we were talking before the show started about Wakanda. Facebook page that came
Can you
out
tell them?
of,
You're gonna tell them about it.
That group came out of
What was the name?
Wakanda. It's called Wakanda because there was almost a legal suit. Because it came out of Wakanda. So when Black Panther was released, it was a huge thing everywhere, including in the Black Adventist space.
Right.
So out of that, this group was created for Black Adventists, whether you're still in the church or not. If you are associated with Black Adventism, this group is for you. And I lost my thought explaining what it was about. Totally lost my thought.
Conversation before about,
and I was talking about like basically the types of worship styles,
thank you.
all that type of stuff.
So in that group recently, I had a conversation with someone about 20 years my senior, who every time something happens in the Black community, someone will get on that Facebook group and say, and we will all look to the church, right? Okay. And we know the church is not the Black Adventist church. It is the GC.
Okay.
You go to the GC, it doesn't necessarily look like us.
Right.
You'll
right.
find us there,
Right.
but it doesn't necessarily look like us. So anytime something happens in the Black community, the Black Adventist community is looking to the church to see what they have to say about it. Many times they'll be quiet. Sometimes they'll say something, and it would have been better that they just remain quiet.
You can't win. Maybe that's what they're viewing.
And then sometimes they'll say something that we needed to hear.
Right.
But anytime something like that happens, you go to the Facebook group, and someone will start the conversation about they don't understand how much the regional churches pour, how much money the regional churches pour into the Adventist church. So even here in Florida, one of the previous presidents of the Southeastern Conference a few years ago was talking about how the Southeastern Conference is growing. Florida Conference Church, as much money as they have, is dying. And it's because the Florida Conference, their membership is built on the elderly. Southeastern Conference, they're bringing in new members. So people are moving to Florida. They're going to Southeastern Conference churches. They're putting their kids into school.
Right.
Those kids, they grow up, whether they're Adventists or not. If they're in an Adventist school, chances are they'll become Adventists. So the Southeastern Conference has been growing. Again, I must be tired because then again, losing my thought again. But every time this happens, there's money that's going in. So even though Florida Conference, we know, is the richest conference in the world, they're still experiencing decreasing numbers in their church population. But regional conferences are pouring in money because the regional conferences are growing. So there's always the conversation of, well, if the GC or the NAD or whoever is closest to us, the union, no one is standing up for us, the regional conferences. No one is speaking for us. Going back to safe spaces. Am I feeling like I'm in a safe space in the Adventist church as a member of a Black conference? So someone is going to be like, well, what would happen if we pulled out our resources? It's like California.
We hear that.
If California decided to become their own country, guess what? They're going to do mighty well because they are as rich as most. I think between 3 and 5. They'll be the richest country in the world if they remove themselves from the U.S. Regional conferences are the same way. If the regional conferences came together and said, we're now our own church, like the Baptist church split into I don't remember the exact name, but you do have a Black section of Baptists, we would thrive. And what would happen to that money that's going up all the way up to the GC? So when it comes to race, there is always a large conversation about that because a lot of things are happening in society that's race-based. Not that there's more things happening. It's just that, again, social media means we see it more. It is being talked about more plainly, and we're seeing it when not necessarily just black and white. When you're looking at what's happening with immigrants, right? As a person of color, it doesn't have to be my people that's being pulled away. Right. If I know I'm being a lump sum as a person of color, whatever is happening to them, guess who's next? Me. So I'm looking for safety, whether it's in society, whether it's in the church, wherever I am, I'm looking for my safe space. And, I'm looking to see that the church has my back. And race has become a conversation piece because you're supposed to be my safe space. And if you're not defending me, yet I'm sending my money, God's money, up to you, I expect you to, just like whoever we put into office, we expect them to represent us. So if I'm voting you into office at the, in a conference or the union or the GC, I expect you to represent me as well, So.
That's a good one. So the where this social section came from is I watched something from Lecrae now. So Lecrae is a Christian rapper, and some people have a problem with that, but I think he's good at his craft. And one thing he talks about is the Charlie Kirk situation. And people said he had so much to say when it came to, some of like the Black deaths that happened, like the high profile ones, but then he was silent when it came to Charlie Kirk. And so people are paying attention to when you speak up.
Yeah.
And also paying attention to when you decided to stay silent.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the social constructs now where it's just like, I mean, he's free to do what he wants, right? It's his platform, it's his, opinions and stuff like that. But people are paying attention. Again, I'm going to use, it feels like now more than ever, of like you said, with the conference or with churches, like, how come you aren't speaking up here and you spoke up here? We saw something similar even with that same situation with our churches, right? And so that became a point of discussion. And so do you actually feel like it's important as a society that we do pay attention to when and how people speak up and when they stay silent?
Yeah, I think it is important. We know that within this last election, we had a number of young black individuals that moved more to the right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's because for a lot of them, they didn't feel represented by the Democratic Party because all they want is our vote. I was just listening to someone, someone who's Mexican American, and he was explaining the same thing. He said the reason I used to be a Democrat, but I became a Republican because all the Democrats do is talk about they want my vote. They only talk about race when they want my vote. And so that has happened a lot. And even in California, my uncle works as a tax professional, and he does, Los Angeles, a large population are Mexican American, and he was saying that a lot of them ended up voting Republican because life is hard for them. They've been in America for 4 or 5 generations, and they can't get a job. Right. So they're looking at what was being said, and they were looking for representation. Who's going to help me to get a job? Looking for representation being my point is that that's what we're doing. I'm telling you, I'm tired.
You're good. You're good.
We're looking for representation.
Yeah.
And your original question was,
I hope you're not asking me.
no.
So my original question was from the standpoint of when it comes to like these social issues and when you're speaking up and when you're staying silent.
Okay, so in staying silent. So the same thing that happens in politics is happening in the church.
Yes.
Right? So I'm looking for representation who's representing me. And if you're not representing me, I start to ask the question, why am I here? The same way they were looking for my vote but doing nothing for me, you're looking for my 10% and you're not doing anything for me.
Right.
So what can I do with that 10% and still honor God? You know?
Okay.
What can I do with myself and place myself where I do feel represented and again safe? So if there's just silence and crickets when I need to know that what I'm feeling is justified, and not being told, well, just to be quiet because Christ is coming back again and that's what you need to focus on. Yeah, but I got to live today and I have to deal with what's going on today. Right. Can you please speak to that? Right. So I know what to do and I have some sort of comfort. But your silence is speaking louder than, than anything. It's telling me that you're not for me and you're not concerned about my well-being. So I start to look and I start to wonder.
I think we need to seek God in wisdom, because I noticed when there were times when Christ was being accused or whatever, and he would say nothing. Not, the Bible says, not a mumbling word. And then there were times he would speak up, and when he spoke, it was so profound that he would put him to shame and to silence. Sometimes he would just write in the sand. And then, grown men would be like, oh, okay, yeah.
Let me step back. And
you on my street now, God. Right. So I think if we speak in wisdom and knowing when to speak up, because at the same time, and this might sound wrong, but you say the wrong thing.
You're canceled.
You're not just canceled, because as a matter of fact, they're coming after your exemptions now. Yeah. So you say the wrong thing, and you might be looking at, like today, for example, I went over to the trophy place, and she was like, "You're exempt, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course we're exempt, so we don't pay the taxes." Now, imagine if I said something wrong or whatever, or the church said something wrong. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't speak up, right? Just to save our exemption. But I'm just saying there are people within our organization who are very cautious about what they say, when they say it, how they say it.
Which is true.
I think we're very, I think for the most part, we're underrepresented.
Oh, for sure.
When we look upwards, we're very underrepresented. And I think we need some more of us to speak up and to you know, to have a voice, so that we feel like we have a voice. But I think the whole issue of race comes up because of the fact that the society that we live in now is very race charged. And
this country is always
the country is, I mean,
it was built on
it was,
slavery,
but there was a time. There was a lull for a long time. There was a lull.
That's why I'm like. That's why
There
I
was
describe.
no.
things
Here's
that
my
feel
point. Here's my
that
point.
way.
Here's my point.
You think it was
To
there
a
in
larger
silence?
degree, there's always been racism. There's always been a voice saying, well, we don't like. But there was a lull in certain communities where you would not hear that. In certain places where you would not hear that.
Yeah, there were safe spaces.
There were safe
Like
spaces.
even right
but
now,
there's
you
no
have-
safe spaces now. They tell you, and there are people who will come out. There are people who will come out now and say, I don't like you. And I don't like you because of who you are.
Yes, because you know why? They
feel empowered.
They've been empowered to go back. So it's not that it wasn't there. It was that society has shifted. So talking I love talking to my brother, Keenan. Society has shifted over time, right? So America was built on slavery. We all know. Well, it's no longer a fact, right?
Wow.
It's being, but we know America started with a system of slavery.
Yes.
Slavery ended, then the Jim Crow era started, all the way up until 1960, 64, 65, right? After that, it was people moving away from, basically, it's been a society of people waiting for people to die.
Okay.
For us to move past the era. Because there's still people who are alive today.
Yes.
A lot of people still alive today.
Yes.
Who are still a part of the Jim Crow South.
Yes.
And there's still people who are alive today who have great grandparents who were born in slavery. You will still find some of those. Very rare, but you will. So that has been society. But we've gotten to a point. So like in the 80s, 90s, 2000, where things started to shift. And the reason I say I love talking to my brother is because I was talking to him about how whether society is moving to the left or to the right, the great thing about a two-party system is that you got to pull back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, so much so that it really, in time, keeps you centered.
Okay.
But in reality, what has been happening over time is that society has slowly moved more to the left, to the left. But it's happened so slowly that you don't realize it. There's just the 4 to 8 years of anger that I don't agree with what's going on. But, we're going to go back to normal in 4 or 8 years. But over time, things have always in America been moving more to the liberal side. For example, going from slavery to freedom, that's a move to the left. Going from Jim Crow South to the Civil Rights Act, that's a move to the left. Providing support and efforts to kids in low-income communities who have been affected by the past, that's a move to the left. We've always been moving to the left. Whether we agree with it or not, the movement for the LGBTQ community, allowing them to be married, that's a move to the left. But then we ended to a point where somebody got into a position where they can say, we've gone too far to the left. And what has happened is that the shift back to the right has been
extreme.
So rapid that we all feel it. If it was happening slowly, it would just, we've been moving in the reverse, but it would have been give and take. But it was so drastic that we felt it. So it has always been there. It's just that because things are happening so drastically right now, that things are bubbling into the surface. And as you said, people feel empowered.
Yes.
Because we see our own leader being empowered to say things. Nationally, well, not just nationally, but internationally. So if he can do it, why can't I? Most powerful person in the world can do it. Why can't I? So it gives people that freedom to speak and say what we talk about freedom of speech. I really can't tell you.
Really?
You
Is that still a thing? Freedom of speech?
But if I believe in freedom of speech and I want to say what I have to say, who am I to tell you to be quiet?
The one part that, and you hit it right when I was thinking of saying it, I think that's been the thing. I think one side has felt like they felt the effects of the other side for so long and have kind of more or less put up with it that the correction is feeling extreme, like no more silence. It's just we are going to get this, back on track, or we're going to be heard. Right. And I think that's what's like quelling up to the top right now with both sides, So,
but you also said something that's important, is that we've been lulled. Talking specifically about the Black community, we've been lulled. Like when I first moved to Miami, I was listening to NPR, and they said one of the worst things to happen to the Black community was integration. And I'm like, what? How dare you? Wow. How dare you attack integration? But then listening to the program and what the person had to say, they were like, well, yeah, if you think about it, the American education system, as an example, you had two different systems coexisting. Right. You had the white system and you had the Black system. The white system were getting all the resources, but the Black system, they were getting hand-me-downs. But guess what they had? The Black community had the best educators that you could possibly get. Why? Because they couldn't get jobs in their career fields. So the only thing for them to do was to teach. So as soon as the Civil Rights Act and integration started to happen, guess what? Those people that were teaching were now going into their desired career fields. Good for them. But what does that mean for the Black community? The Black school system shut down. It did not integrate into the white school system. It shut down. Remember now, the white school system was a racist system because they did not want integration. They did not want Black and Hispanic kids in their schools. So you shut down the Black system with integration because that is now the law. And you took all of those kids, fired the teachers because you can't use them, took a few here or there, so you said you have them. But you took all of the kids because the law is you have to educate them all, and you put them into the same existing system. Did you change the system? No. All we did with time is we passed laws to help the kids who have been disadvantaged. Did it really work over time? That's debatable. But now we have a system that is actually more segregated today than it has ever been, including during segregation. And you have kids who are, they're worse off. They say right now, the average reading grade level is a sixth grade reading level.
I saw that.
And that doesn't just affect Black kids, it affects all kids. Wow.
That's...
Here's a question that I just thought of.
How did my get down there?
Shane, leave me alone. You hear me just fine. With, us talking about being low distraction, things that the devil is doing, do we think that the radical shifts that have been happening, the voice that race has been given, like everything just seems racial, do we think that could possibly be something the devil is using to distract us, especially if we're talking about end times and stuff? Well, then how do we do that balancing out? Because it is still important, but also we don't want to be distracted. You know?
So I remember growing up, and what got me on my journey, and you come up as a Seventh-day Adventist, right? We weren't always Seventh-day Adventists, from what I was told. We were Baptist. And a Seventh-day Adventist came around. I guess he was distributed in tracts or something, and that's how we got the message. At any rate, I remember my church. This is back home. It was a 3-tier church, so we had a basement. We would have power finders and stuff in the basement. And I remember we were doing foot washing, and a friend came over to me. His name is Raj, and he came over to me. He said to me, "When you close your eyes, what do you see? When you think of Jesus, do you see a black God or a white God?" And that started me on my journey, because I'm like, I've never thought about it before. That started me on my journey as to, am I praying to a black God or a white God? Does it matter if I pray to a black God or a white God? Is he going to hear my prayers?
If so that started me wrong.
Yeah, if I picture him wrong.
You're not asking me.
You're not talking to me. You're talking to Black Jesus. So you go over there with Black Jesus. So that started me on my journey as far as trying to figure out who I was as a Christian and what is it that God really wants from me and for me. And in that search and in that journey, I remember one day, I had shaved my head, and Raj shaved his head, and another friend of mine shaved his head. So there's like 3 shaved head kids in the church. It had nothing to do with religion, but the church came together. The church board came together. I happened to be in the United States at the time. I came up for something. I don't remember. Oh, I remember now. And by the time I got back home and my father had picked me up from the airport, he says, oh, the church actually convened and we had a triunion and they were actually going to read us out of church.
Wow. For shaving your head?
It was just about shaving your heads because we were seeking what was religion. So I started to read books on religion. You know, I started reading about different religions and all the rest of it. And the mistake I made was sharing what I was reading. So now, now you believe something different or whatever. So there's always been an aspect of society where, you know, too much education. Don't share everything.
Yeah, education's always
There's nothing wrong with reading. There's nothing wrong with educating yourself. There's nothing wrong with trying to get a grasp on why you are a Seventh-day Adventist. Why do you believe what you believe? Because you have to know what you believe. Because somebody's going to ask you one day, why do you believe what you believe? And you have to give an account.
You need to challenge yourself.
There you
so
go.
that when other people challenge you,
there
it's
you
not
go.
the first time.
There you go. So, you know, and it comes back to the question of race. And I think it's just in our face so much. But it's always been there. In the West Indies, it's more of a class system.
Yeah.
Example,
Right.
I remember this because I saw it firsthand. I went into a store. I don't remember exactly what it was. Let's say it was a pen. Going to the store. Ma'am, do you have any more of these red pens? No.
Oh,
Okay. Here comes somebody of a different persuasion than me. Ma'am, do you have any red pens? No, she knows she does not have any red. Let me go in the back and check. Man, you just told me no. Now you're going in the back and check. Really? So it was more of a class system. When I moved to the United States, my eyes were so wide. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
I never understood slavery and the journey that the Americans had to go through. Because the worst thing that happened to me, a white lady set a dog on me. That was the worst. And I was on my way to church. I happened to be in a neighborhood, predominantly white neighborhood. This is in Barbados. I was in a predominantly white neighborhood, and I should say she set the dog on me. The dog was running over there. She never called the dog back. So we were, I'm walking to church.
She thought y'all were playing.
No, playing. We don't play like that, man. And she's standing there just watching the dog. The dog, trying to bite us and all the rest of it. And that was about the worst I saw. But moving to the United States, and I saw from firsthand what the journey that some of these people had to go through. And I'm like, wow. Not only that, and I hate to say this, but what the church has done to us, what organizations, hospitals have done to us. I mean, and you learn about some of our roots. Seventh-day Adventist Church, we had to be in the balcony as blacks. Seventh-day Adventist Church, early Seventh-day Adventist churches. And has the church ever apologized to us and say, we're sorry we put you through that we were wrong?
They gave us our own conference.
Give us your own conference. Right here, look. You take that. Here's your own conference, because, when we get to heaven, we'll have...
Blacks only.
But I always remind my older brother that you have to remember that we are tribal creatures.
Okay.
Right? So in America, it's a conversation about race. You go outside of America, it's a different conversation. You go to Africa, it's literally what tribe do you belong to?
Right.
And throughout history, it has always been a conflict. Let's say it wasn't the Europeans that colonized the world, but it was, Africans. The conversation would have been flipped.
Okay. True.
Go back even to the Bible. They didn't call it tribalism, but basically, it was the Israelites against the Philistines.
Right. Or the Ammonites or whoever.
Go back as far as you can in human history. You'll always find one tribe against another.
Okay.
And that's how we're tribal creatures. So basically, what we are, God created us as social creatures. Unfortunately, the side effect of that in the world that we live in is tribalism. So for us in America, it's a conversation about race, but if you go anywhere else, it's a different conversation. Like before the evolution of the internet, someone will come to the U.S. and wouldn't know they're black until they got here.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's true.
True.
Well, this has been, I told Andre before even we started, I was like, I'm so excited for this topic because I'm just like, I think we have the good people to talk about it. And I think I've even learned a lot just being here, just thinking like, man, between politics, racism, or not racism, religion,
yeah.
social, which included like the racism and stuff like that. It can just be overwhelming when you take that time and sit back and be like, man, a lot is going on. And that's where this whole idea of like, is it end times or is it hard times? Because there's just like so much going on. What way is right? Should we be paying attention to all this? Is it a huge distraction? And like, you know, like God stay focused on me. So I wanted to think through, like, you know, what does the Bible say about it? And I know we mentioned some of them, like knowledge will increase. There will be wars and rumors of wars. The wheat and the tares are going to grow together. Even the guy that talked about the rapture, he said, like, hey, this is going to happen. The wheat and the tares are going to grow together. The people that are making fun of me might be the tares, and like people like me are the wheat, you know. Marrying and giving into marriage will allow people to believe their lies will be happening. Christ will come back like a thief in the night. So it's just like it's just like for the people that aren't ready, it's going to be like, where did you come from? And then we talked about if it were possible for the very elect to be deceived, they would be. So the Bible has provided a lot of guidance. So should we, I guess, what should our position be? Because, you know, Andre has like a note in here talking about how can we live with a sense of spiritual urgency without losing peace or become like enthralled in the distractions that are happening. How do you have that balance?
So I remember C.D. Brooks gave a testimony one time while he was preaching. So he was flying back. I want to say he was doing a crusade in Mexico somewhere. He was flying back to the United States. And then he said, while sitting there, you know, there's a soldier sitting there. He has a little magazine. He's going through his magazine. There's a businessman on that side. He's doing something, business, calculating something. There's somebody else over here doing things. They're playing cards. Can we get 2 more for cards? So they go over there. They're playing some cards and all the rest of it. There's a lady sitting next to him. And he said, here comes the air hostess, and she's walking by. And he said she was white as a ghost. Like, okay. So she goes quickly to the back, and then she goes quickly back to the front. So he said, But people are still doing their thing. And then she goes back again, and he was like, okay, something is wrong here. And then she goes, and then the announcement comes over, you know, something is wrong. Okay, here's Mr. Businessman. Oh, it's time to die? Okay, let me put my calculator away. Let me close this briefcase. The guy with the magazine, he starts putting that away. You know, he took that back in he tried to shove it as far down into the thing as he can. The cards are put away. It's time to die. The lady next to him, he says she grabbed onto him without his wife's permission. Because, you know, but he said he looked, I guess he looked out the window, but he saw a reflection of his face. And he was in such peace. And the question is, where did that peace come from? It's time to die, but you're at peace. You're not panicking. So that has to be a relationship that he had with God, from not just when the lady walked by, he started saying this prayer, oh Lord, please. No, that comes with it. So again, when 9/11, after 9/11, we could not get a seat in church. You couldn't get a place to park. Now you can choose any seat you want, and you can park your car anywhere you want. Every time there's a crisis or something happens, we catch religion. You got to go to jail. That's why religion is big in jail. You're and we call it jailhouse religion. Yeah. You catch religion when you go to jail. Anytime there's a crisis, you seek God. You stump your toe. What's the first thing you say? Oh, bye. Okay, there you go. You seek God. And I think if we seek God in the times, again, we go back to scripture. If you can't keep up with the horsemen, because they're the courageous, right? And this is where the analogy comes from. There's the courageous. They're the guys running next to it. But then the horses are way up there. How are you going to keep up with the horses if you can't even keep up with the little thing down here? So we have to start small. And when we see these things happening, don't just catch religion. Talk to God and ask God, where in this situation do you want me? The pandemic taught us to be reliant on God. And don't let that pass you. Don't let that slip by. Understand what happened. Understand that we could not go to church. And we were told not to come out your house. Some of us braved and came out of our houses and all the rest of it. But these are, again, and God allows these situations to happen to build us so that when times of trouble come, we are stronger for it. So we go through these little things, but that builds faith so that when the big things come, we don't have to be panicking and worrying like the rest of the world. We can say, you know what? So come Lord Jesus.
It's like a shaking, it's like not only the faith part and building it, but it's also beginning to shake out like who's really real.
There's going to be a sifting, but
right. And that's the stuff that we do have to think about. Is like, I think from what I've seen, I feel like Adventists are pretty knowledgeable people. Like one of like the most knowledgeable from like a Bible standpoint.
Yeah, we
as
do
a
read.
collective message that I've seen, and it's just would still be a shame to kind of like know all that type of stuff and be lost. And like that's one of those potentials that is there for the right thing, but like Andre said a couple of times in the show, but being lulled to sleep. And like there's so many warnings. It's like even people say about whatever you believe with the election and stuff like that. It's like you had an open book test, but like you can say the same thing about the Bible and God. And it's just like you had an open book test, you had access, and you just didn't want to insert the blank. And I think to your point, see, I'm trying to summarize everybody's points. To your point, it's just like the devil knows your thing for each individual person. And so I think there has to be a time where like what thought came to me was like, okay, if I had to summarize hard times or just end times and like what's the message that we and the viewers should really think about, is just like, to be honest, what came to my mind was be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, is like a roaring lion seeking who he may devour. And that's where Gavin talked about, like what happened to the cute stuff. And then it's like, but it's just like, especially going to Africa, I've seen it, like lions don't just appear and just like, oh, gotcha. It's just like they're watching. They're watching and they're patient and they're waiting for the right opportunity so they don't fail. And it's just like, man, you could ask God the question, like, why does it have to be this hard? Like, why do you require things from me and it doesn't seem easy? Like, you can definitely ask that question and be honest with him, but he's warning you of those things to look for. And so don't downplay the power of prayer. If our prayer lives are not right, if it could be better, if you could be honest with yourself and be like, you know what, I need to pray better. I need to read more. I need to watch the community that I surround myself with. Like, have those serious conversations, because you don't want to be in a place where really you waste your time. And like one thing Pastor Alex said that I will never forget is like, going to hell, go first class. Don't waste your time doing
what now?
If you're gonna go to hell, go first class. Like, just be hot, be cold. Don't do the lukewarm thing where you begin to trick yourself and you're not really where you think you are. So
I like that.
thank you so much, Rodney, for being here for the first time. We were talking about like, why haven't we? I mean, we talked about it before, but we just never circled back. I felt like he told me no before. And like once he told me no one time, it's just like, man, my feelings are hurt. But we're so glad you came on. And then Gavin, thank you for coming back. And you have a drive, and he was already tired, you see. So it's just like, we appreciate you for being here. And thank you all for watching as well, and for being in the comments. Drew said peace is a deception. My God. Wow.
Drew,
wow.
We're trying to wrap things up.
Wow. Peace is a deception.
Good
Yeah.
Lord.
But we just want you to know a couple of things before we pray. A few announcements for you to know. Like and subscribe on these pages. This is how you know what's happening next. There's going to be a slide on the screen for text messages for our youth and young adult. There's 2 different numbers, so make sure if you want to know when things are happening, make sure you follow the instructions on screen about that. And then lastly, because this is our youth and young adults group, we want you to know that, well, actually, young adults, a lot of you have kids, or you know people that have kids. So we want you to know that you can bring your children to church tomorrow if you have kids. We have children's church, especially for them. And then also there's Boys and Girls Club for our youth ages 13 to 18 at 7 p.m. tomorrow night. So there's a lot of stuff happening at this church for our younger demographics. And then, of course, there's stuff for everybody as well. So we thank you so much for joining us. Roddy, can you pray us out?
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Let me just say this before.
Yeah.
The 10 virgins 10 virgins. So all 10 got invitations. All 10 had their outfits. They had their fits ready.
Yeah.
But 5 of them decided, let's just. All 10 went to sleep though.
Right.
They all slept. They all slept. But when that message came, hey, the bridegroom is here. When it was time to, hey, okay, let's go. Hey, can I borrow? Can you what now? No, I can't help you. So we got to be careful and we got to be ready at all times, because I do believe we're in the end times. So we finish out with that. I do believe we're in the end times, and we have to. Things are hard, but we have to be ready. Let's bow our heads. Loving God, we are thankful for this space or this time, for this freedom that we have, where we could even have a discussion about hard times, about end times, about the way the world is going. So we want to thank you, first of all, for being God and for allowing us to have this conversation. I want to thank you for your holy Sabbath day's rest. I pray that some messages, some nuggets, something would have touched the heart. Then we would have done our jobs. We bless and glorify your name. And above all else, please accept our praise, is my prayer. Amen.
Amen. Thank y'all. We'll see you, I guess, next year on the next walk.
Whoa. Before you go, make sure you like us on all social media platforms at The Walk Live and find us on any of your favorite podcast platforms. Our journey doesn't have to end here. Join us on the next walk.